As a child, I didn't really know my grandpa. It wasn't until I was 12 years old and I was able to build a relationship with him. That summer, my mom, brother, and I went to visit my grandpa in Breckenridge for the first time I can remember. My mom hadn't talked with him for a long time after that. We visited him almost every weekend. About a month later, we found out my grandpa had a bad case of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and his lungs were only functioning at 40%. He was only 63 years old, but he had smoked for many years. He also developed an upper respiratory infection. With the infection, my grandpa started getting sicker and sicker, and we couldn't do anything about it. He just had to fight through it, which was the hardest thing for all of us to see. It was after my grandpa's health declined that my mom told me the real reason why my mom and her dad hadn't talked until then. It was because he had a drinking problem and my mom couldn't understand it and wanted to keep us kids away from it. He had told her now how much he regretted the things he had done and the pain he had caused his family. The time was ticking then. His heartbeats got slower and his breaths got shorter. None of us could stand the thought of losing this man who, despite his struggles with alcohol, served in the military, cared for his children, and had a wonderful life that we only got to see parts of. It got harder in the winters for us to keep driving back and forth to Breckenridge to visit him because the roads would get icy. So we would sit around worrying if something had happened. Then we decided it would be best to move him closer to us in Fergus. When he started to lose strength in his legs, we had to get him a walker. But he didn't mind. I remember that he loved to sit in his favorite chair every day watching Nancy Grace, one of his favorite shows. We kept bringing him into the doctor, but he never heard any good news. Then, on a cold day, 2 weeks before Halloween, the doctor told us that my grandpa had only 12 hours to live. We all went into shock. I remember coming home from school, getting dropped off at his apartment, walking in. All the family was there, and they told me I needed to say my goodbyes to my grandpa that I had just become so close with. I couldn't hold in the tears anymore. I had to let them go. I had been holding them in far too long. As I walked in through the hallway, on my way back to my grandpa's room where he is lying, slowly but quickly dying, all I could think of were the good times we had together. His skin color was changing, he was shivering. I knelt down next to his bed, holding on to his hand, whispering in his ear that I loved him oh so much, that I am glad I got to spend the time I did with him, and that I would see him again someday. My grandpa remained under hospice care for the next week and a half before he passed away. All of his children, grandchildren, siblings were able to say their goodbyes. Seeing my grandpa lay there in his coffin was even harder than seeing him die. He looked so different, not all like the healthy man that loved to joke around with us children. It made me wonder how he could go from looking so good one day to looking like this just weeks later. I kept wondering if I could have done something that would have helped. Maybe he would have stopped smoking if I encouraged him to. Why did God take him when he was so young? He was only 63. At 63, you're supposed to be retiring, being lazy, and spending time with your family. Not having your family put you on the ground and saying their final goodbyes. Losing my grandpa has changed my life. It has shown me how to live every day like it's my last, because you never know when that special person in your life is going to be gone. I feel blessed and honored to have been able to get to know my grandpa because my little twin cousins never even got the chance to meet him. Now all they have are stories and pictures, but everyone else has actual memories of him. I feel so lucky that I was able to get to know him at his best and the last 2 years of his life. Those years with my grandpa made up for the years before, wondering who he was and what he was like. I will always love him and I will never forget him.